As a child, I grew up during an interesting era for Sonic the Hedgehog. Being born at the end of the 90s and living in the early 2000s, I grew up with the Sonic Adventure games and Sonic X, but still managed to grow up with the older Sonic games and cartoons. One of my favorite Sonic cartoons as a child was The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog due to its incredibly weird and sporadic sense of humor. I have fond memories of watching the DVD box set on Saturday nights instead of doing my homework and wanting to see what weird plot Sonic would be put into. Because of this association, one of my favorite sets of figures I have are these really old-school Tomy Sonic figures from the 90s. If you've watched my channel before, you no doubt have seen these shown in a few videos because I really love how they look. It's like they came straight from the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon, but for every time they have appeared in my videos, I never really dedicated much time to them. Since I've just recently come into possession of duplicates of the same sets of figures, I thought I'd finally show them off. So here we go. The history on this hideous pack of 4 is kind of mysterious. From what we know, these were made by Tomy in the early 90s, sometime around Sonic 2 being released in either 1992 or 1993. But the line was soon re-released in a special Sega box which included 3 different Sonics and 1 Metal Sonic. I also happen to own this, and it can be seen in my 4th collection update video. Then the line was greatly expanded upon in 1994 or 1995 as a Sonic & Knuckles toy line, including the addition of Knuckles and a bunch of badniks. But whether or not these made it to the US or if they were all UK exclusive is hard to tell. Anyways, I live in the US and I have them, so let's get into the reviews. First, let's take a look at the 2 Sonics I own. Now, as I said, I have duplicates of these spiky boys, but I'm just going to show off what I brought to college with me. One thing that defines these figures are their absolutely horrendous paint jobs. You will never find a figure from this set that looks the same as another figure from the set. Because of their hand-painted production, each one looks incredibly unique. Sonic here looks just like he did in the 90s and the old cartoons. He has 3 rows of flat spikes that look pretty unique and go all the way down to his back. I think this is one of my favorite aspects of the figures, how they seriously serve as a physical time capsule of just how different Sonic looks today. His shoes are nice and pointy, and the bottoms are white instead of red and grey, which is how he was depicted in very early UK artwork. Also interesting to point out is Sonic's shade of blue. Yes, there was once a time when modern and classic Sonic didn't exist, and regardless of design, Sonic was Sonic. Because of this, classic Sonic was dark blue just like his modern day self, which is evident on the US and UK box art designs. Here we see one Sonic doing his classic finger wave, but his eyes are actually separated instead of how his normal design looks. Regardless of paint, I do like the sculpt. It's an iconic pose, and it's nice to know Sonic figures back then, as well as today, understand this iconic stance. Moving on to the other Sonic, here he is doing his classic arms folded, toe tapping, and patient stance that we all know him for. This is one of those figures where from just one angle he looks good, but from others, I mean look at this, his eye is just a dot. But despite these paint jobs, there is so much character in these little figures. They captured Sonic's personality amazingly well by just sculpting him a certain way. But what would Sonic be without Tails? This is a cool one and does not come up for sale as often as Sonic. Somehow, some way, they managed to scale these figures so that Tails is smaller than Sonic. Here, Tails is doing a unique pose that I don't even know how to describe, but this is one of those rare Tails figures where it depicts him in his old US and UK design. There seemed to be a disconnect from the games to the shows to the comics because Tails was constantly miscolored as brown or orange instead of yellow as he is today. This figure is interesting as it chooses a shade of orange that has hints of brown, so it's almost like a happy medium. Tails' 2 big bushy tails are as prevalent as ever here, and the paint job on this one actually isn't as bad as it could have been. All his details are correct, even the blue around his glove cuffs are present, which I find shocking. Put side by side, Sonic and Tails look just like they did in the old Sonic cartoons. But if these figures look like that, then there is one character we are missing. Yes, it's Dr. Robotnik, the infamous Robotnik design that we all know for one reason or another. Here he is in all his rotund glory, taller than both Sonic and Tails. Robotnik here is depicted in his Adventures of Sonic cartoon design, which makes him one of my favorite Eggman pieces in my collection. His pose is interesting, it's him looking confused, scratching his head with one arm behind him. His weird pointed shoes are also designed excellently here, and out of all the paint jobs, I think this one has the best. We see his old black eyes with red pupils and his big bushy orange mustache that he used to have. Even all of the dots on his gloves are painted green as they should be, and I'm just constantly blown away by the details they managed to get on these figures, because they're really small. This isn't the only figure to depict Robotnik in this old design. Interestingly, he had quite a couple collectibles that used this design. But this is the only one I have of it, so whenever he is displayed, he's always displayed proudly. And there you have it, everyone, a proper look at some of the rarest and strangest Sonic collectibles out there. Sonic collectibles have certainly come a long way, and I'm glad to own these unique pieces in Sonic history. Until next time, this has been TheShnizNite, aka the Sega Collector, and I'll see you all again soon.